All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Tiffany, on this wonderful distance learning session, Portland Cocktail Week. We are happy to sponsor these. We love the content and all the presenters, including you. So just introduce myself really quickly. My name is Jessamine McLellan. I'm the Academy Lead at Campari America, which means that I just run all of our educational fun stuff, like our educational good times. So I help with developing our programming. I also run our physical academy in New York, which is our beautiful space, which I honestly haven't been into since March, so I miss it a lot, but where we get to train bartenders on lots of techniques and amazing knowledges. And I also help develop some of our brand stuff when it comes to education there too. So Campari Academy is happy to sponsor these. And today it is National Anisette Day, which is a very special day, probably under-celebrated by many bartenders. And I'm super excited that you're here, Tiffanie Barriere, to come and talk to us about anisette and this kind of almost like unknown category. I think regionally, obviously, it has amazing focuses in especially the Mediterranean, but from an American perspective, of course, the the idea of the flavor of anise and licorice and these types of things are almost polarizing, I would say, in a way. So some people are super familiar with it and really like it, and other people don't. But I also just don't think we have a ton of opportunity to really educate on this category. So it's going to be really fun as we talk through today. So and we're sponsoring today with Ouzo 12, which is our the #1 Ouzo not in the US, but in the world. But it's a Grecian liqueur, and we'll talk a little bit about it today. But I would love it if you would just want to introduce yourself, Tiffanie, and talk a little bit about your background and why do you love anisette so much?
Hi, everybody in Zoom world. Thanks, Portland. Thank you, Campari Academy. I feel like I'm giving an award right now, but thank you for even having this. We're in such an awkward time, but also a fun time to be creative and sip. And so I'm grateful that my great friends, Portland Cocktail, and also my good friends at Campari asked me to come and nerd out a little bit on what I love to do, which is drink. I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm Tiffanie Barriere. Also known as a drinking coach for those that follow me, and that's just what I love to do. I love to coach people through the palate, through the moments, through the cocktail, obviously, and definitely through history and agriculture. Yes, National Anisette Day. Who thought? Who thought that this would be a day?
Who knew that was even a thing? But here we are.
I often wonder where were these days when I was in college or when I was younger, so I could celebrate these beautiful drinking holidays. I'm assuming that that was a perfect time for us to be older and appreciated. But I've always enjoyed complex spirits. I live here in Atlanta, Georgia, and almost 4 years ago, I operated One Flew South, which was the #1 airport bar to travel in the world for 4 years. Straight. So it was very exciting to meet lots of people through your travels, definitely gather some awesome stories, see where people are going and coming from. And during that time, I learned about our world, and I kept a program that was very diverse. And so being in Atlanta, I just didn't have a bourbon bar. I just didn't have tequila. I had everything on my bar because I had to appease to the world's palate. Anisette. It was something that was quite popular at my bar. We served a beautiful menu, but I also just had phenomenal clients and guests who enjoyed it and drank it neat and knew how to drink it, and also taught me how to enjoy it. I worked with an amazing chef there that if you did not like something to eat or drink, he made you figure out how to do it. Like if you didn't like anisette or anise, he'd go, we'll figure out how to like it. And so that was the challenge. And the great thing about, the culinary back of the house touching the front of the house. So I just grew a love, not for the black jelly bean, but for the spirit.
I love that attitude. So it's like, you don't like this, we'll just learn how to like it, right? Because it's a flavor that is super popular in other areas. We just aren't necessarily exposed to it as much, but Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, regionally, that is okay. I mean, we as Americans are very accustomed to what we're used to, and there's not many Greek Americans that I know. And if you do see something, it's a small space, and maybe we're just not there. Maybe we're into the wines or maybe the beers, but when it comes to the actual spirit and the culture, we kind of miss that in the States. So I love complex, and I love just a roller coaster of flavors. So I grew to love it and know how to work with it, and also respect its ritual along with how to make a fantastic cocktail with it.
Yes. Are you gonna make a cocktail later or now? When are you gonna make
Oh
it?
yeah. It wouldn't be me if I didn't make a cocktail.
I adore you.
I gotta have a cocktail, and it's like overly time. It's 2 o'clock, a little after 2 o'clock, so we must drink. But those that don't know, like it comes from a grape spirit. Grape distillate, usually 75 proof, so it definitely has a punch and a pack. There's a ritual that's of how they drink it. I was talking to some friends the other night that Finland also does Ouzo, and they do a different, I guess, sip to it. We do know it has to be chilled. I mean, hot spirits are exciting, but they just don't taste as good. So it being nice and chilled is appropriate. It's noted, like its first documentations in the 1300s. So that's a time where so many continents are distilling. And so the Egyptians are distilling a little bit before this time. The Greeks are distilling. The Asians are distilling. So the Greeks are really getting a really nice homage because they were the ones the first to document it. But I think the Egyptians had them maybe by a few years. They were brilliant. They were absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And people go, why does it always taste like that? Well, anise, that star, that licorice smell, that's what it is. And it has beautiful seeds that grow on quite a thorny bush that once the grape distillate is nice and clean, they boil that underneath and kind of steam it into through the pot still. And you get those flavors. There's cardamom, there's cinnamon that are added, but its main ingredient, kind of when you think of gin, its main ingredient is anise or anise, as we say, depending on where you live. I'm in the South, so it's been anise for a long time.
Yeah. Well, and regionally, I think some of the botanicals differ a little bit too, just depending, because all of those Mediterranean countries have so much similarity in the way that they were distilling and making this product. But like, of course, there's lots of botanical differences wherever you go. You know, not the same plants are growing on the hillsides in Greece versus Italy versus the south of France. But all of those countries have a tradition in this anisette flavor and anisette style. So, you know, I think it's kind of interesting to actually dig deeper into the differences between each one of those countries' botanical sort of complements to that anise.
I agree. I think that I call them our drink gods, our drink ancestors. I think they were brilliant. I mean, this was an elixir, this was a treat, this was a medicine. And so when I think of that flavor that people kind of make the yucky face on, I'm like, well, medicine wasn't always the best. Come on, but it worked. So, you know, and knowing that there was a definite spiritual aspect to the fermentation and distillation, it excites me. It's really, really fun. It's a spirit and also a category that I think should be honored even more. And for it to have a day like this in July, which is my month, it's my birthday month.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. Well, not today, but it's coming next week. But
it's your birthday month. It doesn't matter.
The whole month. I'm glad you know that. Like, it's the whole month. All 31 days is my birthday.
When is your actual birthday, though?
July the 10th.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm on it.
Yeah, we're creeping up on it. I usually start right on the 4th of July, party, and then just carry it on into the 10th, and then play on in through the rest, and just keep partying.
My hero.
July's such a fun month. So, like, let me actually, speaking on July and summer feels and summer vibes, I want to make a summer cocktail. I try not to say cocktails have a season. It's more so what's available during that season. So summer cocktails, say hot times, what's really available. This spirit has quite an attitude, quite a sass, which is appropriate, and I like it. But when you give a little sass a hug, when you give a little sass, a little conversation, it's not so sassy, and it just stands so full, and it tends to appreciate. So I want to make something really fun that I've been sipping on as of the past 3 days, because I've been preparing for this, being so excited for this drink day and to hang out with you guys. So usually what you see online, or if you Googled, or if you've even been to Greece, or if you even drank this spirit, you hear a lot about cherries and ginger, strawberries, usually something red, rhubarb, to take on that anisette flavor, which is great because those fruits have a little bit of bitterness. And so when we have something that's loud and proud like the anise, something bitter, the whole little party. It's like a little cat fight going on.
I'm into it.
It's usually fun, but I decided, because I know my bar family out there knows how to make real grenadine, which is pomegranate juice and sugar and water. I'm just gonna go straight palm. So I'm going to build about 2 ounces of palm juice right inside.
I already want this. I don't even know what else is in it, but I'm sold. Sold. I'll take 3.
It's healthy. And then I did a pineapple shrub. We definitely know pineapples are everywhere. It is a welcome treat to come into our industry. But just an ounce to just give our palm a little bit of loving. I steeped this yesterday, last night. Came out amazing. Those that are making shrubs, pineapples are really fun. They already have a great deal of acid, so it kind of builds in the acid and the sweetness. And I make my shrub with brown sugar versus white sugar because brown sugar is better.
More flavor. I always.
Yes. 1 ounce of the good stuff. And then, just because I like a little boost, I'm gonna add 1 ounce of vodka as well. Our sister spirit. Gin, okay. White rum, okay, you can do it. Try it out. As long as we don't take over the anise flavor.
I think that's hard to do.
Very hard to do. Remember, we're talking about a sassy guy here.
Yeah, but to be fair, I mean, is there a reason that you split this base to kind of make it so that the drink is more balanced because it's almost too powerful on its own?
Yeah, I mean, I know when we talk about different spirits, when we order a certain spirit cocktail, we want to taste that spirit. And we also want this to be alluring and understood and sipped almost like the ritual it was. So I like just to curve it with another neutral spirit, just so it doesn't just punch you. It tends to continue to be gravitating. If you were to drink it, I'd ask you to drink it neat if you really were into that flavor. But to round it out in a cocktail, I think vodka is great. It's great.
We just had a question pop up that's which anisette are we using today? So just for anyone that's watching, we're using Ouzo 12, which is a Ouzo from Greece. So anisette as a category can cover quite a few different types of liqueurs or spirits from different regions. And in this particular case, we're going for Greece.
Going for Greece.
Carry on.
I'm gonna get this guy to shake.
Yes. I feel like I should just applaud you for shape, It feels
Oh yeah, haven't heard that in a while. Beautiful color. We know our guests love to look at something beautiful with color. But eat with the eye. The pomegranate comes all the way through. Nice and clean. And I've got some cherries because why not? Got some cherries.
Because they're in season.
And I'm just tossing them right on top.
Amazing.
And it just screams pool time, but it also screams just a nice, beautiful culture. Cherries in the Mediterranean are just as fun. So here she goes.
Yeah.
Cheers to National Anisette Day.
That's beautiful. Cheers. I desperately wish I could just grab that through the camera.
I know, right? One day we can do that.
Yeah, one day. Okay, tell us what it tastes like. I feel like we got some anise coming from the ouzo, the pomegranate, a little berry forward. What is that pineapple shrub doing? Tell me, please.
Let me get another one, hold on.
Okay.
This says charcuterie board all over the place.
Oh man.
So delicious because it's so juicy and jammy. Pomegranate meets pineapple, followed by just the attitude of anisette. No acid at all because we didn't need much. The pomegranate kissed it just like that. I mean, this is luscious, by the way. This is luscious.
I bet.
I think it'd be great in a punch. I think it'd be a great way to, I mean, dare I say, I mean, I'm in Atlanta, and if this thing wasn't happening outside, this would be a great slushie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has such balance to it that even if you handed it to someone who said, I don't like that flavor, how dare you use anisette, or let's say you use a rock or any other anise flavored, can barely taste it because it's balanced with the perfect amount of juice from the pomegranate and pineapple.
Well, I'm gonna have to take your word for it, but I do genuinely believe you.
Oh my goodness, delicious. Okay, because I don't want to just drink online because I will, but I won't.
We'll all just get really jealous, but you know, we can't blame you. Did you want to say anything else about ouzo in general as a category, or?
I mean, I just think it's underrated. I think it sits on the shelf and it's usually put in a spray bottle or rinse. And for our bar family, and I think there's so much more you can do to it besides it being a rinse or an alluring smell. It could be an alluring flavor. And we all know about like the Ouzo effect. I don't know if we do know. You were telling me earlier about like your chemistry background, and you love a nice science trick. When I was growing up, Bill Nye the Science Guy was everything.
He still is everything.
Right? Okay, I didn't want to like ruin it.
Bill Nye the Science Guy is going to save the world.
He was like my hero at one point. But so we know emulsification. We emulsify a lot of things as bartenders with dry shakes, with egg white, and multiple flavors. But there's something about entertaining the guests with just the way something looks or the way our hands become magicians. And so the Ouzo effect is something that I think is so neato. Just like absinthe, Ouzo does the same thing. What happens is the anise flower has an oil, that little pod that's in there. Sometimes when we get them from the store or the market, they still have the seed inside, sometimes they don't. That seed that's in there extracts oil. Huh, who'd have thought? So it extracts oil, and we know oil and water just don't mix unless you force them to. And so that's what kind of happens when any anisette base sees water. So I want to show you like my Bill Nye the Science Guy. Usually we do a slow drip over, you know, if we're offered that. This goes great with oysters as well. You see a slow drip go over a lot of absinthe, but a slow drip over this guy is just as delightful. So I'm just gonna pour an ounce right into my glass. I got a big glass so you guys can see.
Yeah. While you're while you're preparing that really quick, I just want to also back up and say that ouzo is it's usually over 40%. I think by law it has to be somewhere in the high 30s. So even though it has sugar added to it, it's still basically a full base spirit. So a lot of that sort of solubility that happens with these botanical oils that Tiffanie was just talking about happens at these higher proofs. And you're going to show what happens when you bring something down in proof, which is the magic of it all. So I just want to say that there is
magic. I'm going to put a little more so you guys can see. So you guys can see in TV land. But yes, we're going to bring it down. Some things, of course, we see whiskey does this all the time. But bringing the proof down so we can enjoy it as a sipper is super, super special. Also, so we can get the actual flavor. So that you can see that I've got it's super clear now. Clear.
It is clear. I feel like I should be your magician assistant. Like I will hold the here.
So of course, to bring something down on proof, we add the water inside. So I've got some nice cold water I'm gonna pour in. It turned a color.
Dabra.
Our booze has turned a different color, and that's because the oil has touched the water. I wish I could show you. You see the oil lines, and if you happen to go to Google or YouTube, you can see it go in slow motion and see the action happen, and just the oil spread out, and just go, what are you doing to me? What's happening? It's still a great sipper, just as is. You want that water to be nice and chilled so you can enjoy all the flavors that go through the botanicals that go through the spirit. But then, wait, there's more.
There's more.
There's so much more. So this separation and agitation is happening, but it's frozen. It's almost like a chef when they freeze chill a vegetable or an egg so that it can stay itself. So it's frozen, but to bring it back to life and bring it back to what it wants to be in its flavor profile, you can up the proof with rum, or my favorite, a little splash of vodka, and bring it back. So here we go. Magic trick. Watch this this vodka go right inside. 1, 2.
Just like that. See, everybody knows like the absinthe trick, and lushing is kind of the other general term.
Lushing, yes.
Nobody, well, not no one, but a lot of people don't know that you can quite literally reverse that. It's about alcoholic strength, and temperature is obviously a variable here as well, because the colder the water is as well, the less soluble those different oils are. But alcohol, I always say, is just like a really fancy salad dressing, and the higher it is, the more emulsified it is, the more creamy, and you don't have to shake it, right?
You don't have to shake it, and while it's ice cold, all my clears are ice cold right now. I can still sip this.
Oh, I mean, you basically just made yourself an Ouzo martini.
You took the words out of my mouth. I just made a martini.
What would you garnish that with?
Glass, but I don't suggest that. But if we could do that, I mean, that'd be great. Another beautiful program on a bar to do that slow cold drip into a martini glass, and then with more cold vodka. I think we're on to something. Maybe with a skewer of pig, or maybe a nice cold pea. Oh,
a black jelly bean.
Just cherries, or just nothing. Just nothing. That would be so great. So I love when ethanol, alcohol touches back and brings an agitation right back to what it is. And that just shows how natural the grass to glass science can be to the spirits from the liquor gods.
Yeah. I'm going to address a question that we have in the chat really quick, which is, are there any classics with Ouzo? And Tiffany, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I think I see a lot just with pomegranate, grenadine, and soda. It's just right to the point. I've got a good friend from Zimbabwe that shared with me just last night that she grew up drinking it with a splash of cream soda. And that was a treat through the day as well. I don't know how classic that would be. And then let's flip out the absinthe frap and go ahead and drop in this bottle here. I think that'd be pretty delicious.
Yeah, and I would say the most traditional serve for Ouzo and in general anisette is exactly what you just did before we reverse the magic trick, which is just serving it with cold, plain water. It's usually kind of like the Mediterranean aperitivo, right? So it's drink in the afternoon, usually with some snacks, and it's really kind of like a cold, refreshing, long drink. And exactly that pomegranate you see quite a lot. I've also seen it with creme de menthe as like a little add to it. But it's pretty simple. It's usually kind of just left on its own and just served cold and long, and that's the most classic serve. So when we get adventurous in the US with our cocktails, it's definitely the most exciting day it's had.
Yes, we'll dab anything into it. And I also heard cola, ice cola, to make it just kind of stretch, like you said, keeping it long. I think that's the most traditional way to drink it, outside of drinking it the way we would do on the homeland.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about the science behind the magic trick?
I say just keep experimenting with it and really understand that this spirit is a science experiment, and there is oil in here, and not all spirits do carry their oil from the beginning to the end. So really goofing off with it, the separation method, of course keeping it ice cold, and just continue to experiment the way I was taught. Just keep playing with it until you figure out what to do. It's not a shot kind of spirit. I know here in our bar we'll shoot just about anything. But I don't think this is a shot situation. But to each his own. Our palates are personal, but that burn and that sweetness, I don't think it's appropriate for the good buzz. So I wanted to stay away from that. And I want to just continue to educate people on using it with juicy fruits. Nothing that's a stone fruit or something too soft, but it loves sugar. And a sugar that carries an acid, I think, is A1 for sure.
Yeah, amazing. I still really want your cocktail that you have there, so. Yeah.
Super easy. You can do this. You can do it.
So as far as some do's and don'ts, I feel like you kind of already started on that a little bit, like we're not shots, maybe drinking it cold. I don't know. It definitely is a situational beverage, right? We like it on a hot sunny day. I don't know. I just like dream of the Mediterranean coast, and like really wish that I was there drinking a nice tall glass of Ouzo with lots of ice cold water from a pitcher. But are there any other things that you would say are do's and don'ts with it from your experience working with it?
Yeah, I just want to stick away from trying to rush the process. I've heard both sides of it being an aperitif digestif. Drinking it before and after, which anything with an herb is appropriate for eating while eating. But I've also heard some people say to not drink it during the food, because some of the food doesn't always match up. A little bit of oil, extra olives are inside of Mediterranean or Greek food, kind of carries away from the lamb or whatever dish you're eating. So I've just been told from the originals, drink it as is and drink it neat. And usually when you're in a Greek restaurant or whatever homeland you are drinking your anise flavor, to drink it and not think it's a palate cleanser. It's supposed to be sipped and enjoyed. There is definitely a party in the mouth. Anise is something that lingers. And if you have some with other botanicals like cinnamon and coriander and cardamom, that definitely can take away from the meal itself. So we want our meals to enjoy each other, not distract from one another. So to each his own, I always say for the palate, but be sure to realize what you're eating and make sure they match. And stay away from acid. I don't think the lemon loves the sky. And I know I just said palates are personal, but I have not seen fresh lemon or lime working the best. But to each his own. Like I said, keep trying it out, but make sure you round it out with some kind of sugar.
I definitely need cream soda and Ouzo.
Yes. She said that's all they drink during the weekends. And I'm like, what? Cream soda? So I actually want to make some cream soda here in the house and try it out with the homemade soda before I go out and buy an A&W.
I mean, cream soda in general is that super vanilla, sweeter flavor profile, all that stuff you were just saying about, it loves sweet, and it makes a lot of sense to me for sure.
For sure, that's definitely a great indigenous flavor, so they match neck and neck.
Yeah. Well, it's been a delight talking to you today, and I just never thought that we would ever be celebrating National in a way. So, I think it's definitely one of those, lesser loved spirits categories. And I love the fact that you got to be exposed to it so much at One Flew South, and just kind of that like more international palette is really interesting. And I don't know. I really like that, because
I'm glad.
Stuck in our flavor profiles. Like you see these regional differences, right? Like we obviously do a lot of stuff with Italian things, right? So Italians are generally exposed to bitter flavors a lot earlier in their lives than we are necessarily in America. And so, you know, the tolerance for bitterness, and of course, you know, the Amaro category is significantly higher within Italians, and that kind of cultural and culinary influences and inclusions, and then of course, obviously within the spirits themselves as well. And so, you know, I don't know how many people I've met who don't like black licorice and just aren't really into this flavor profile. And I just think, you know, we have this like obligation to continue to try to like teach people more about absinthe or anise or pastis and all of these different sort of categories of liqueurs that really fall within that anise flavor profile. Because like, I don't know how many times you tell someone like, you know, absinthe, for example, which is technically not an anisette, but, you know, just to say that it shares a lot of similarities. You know, they're like, oh my God, I didn't even know you could drink absinthe. Doesn't that make you hallucinate? You know?
You're like, wait, no, but I think that's to the point of you talking about Italian flavors and bitter. We have to learn and teach our palate, and during time, you kind of figure out how to appreciate it. But when you learn that flavor profile or learn parts of your mouth that like or don't like, you just keep trying until you like it. And I definitely think that there's a space for the anise and the anisette flavors, because it is not comfortable for the American palate, but I definitely think that we can figure it out through the course of a few different.
Well, I love your chef's approach, which was just like, figure it out.
Figure it out. Figure it out.
So many chefs are like that. I want to address one of the comments that's in here, and of course, you know, as people have questions, please just bring them up in the chat. But you know, seeing Ouzo or just anisette drank as a digestif is also really popular. So I would say there's very regional differences across the board. So even though, let's just say the DNA of it is potentially really similar, it may be a grape-based spirit that has the same sort of maceration, sugar, it's a liqueur, it's 40%, and you know, many countries share that same sort of blueprint. Other, like certain places will drink it in different ways. So like Sambuca is a really good example of something that a lot of people are really familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
This ritual, which is generally to not drink that with cold water in a tall glass on a hot day, but is actually to drink it after dinner in a snifter with 3 coffee beans.
Yeah, yeah. Regional difference. Whole other tradition.
Yeah, major differences across the board from country to country. So for a lot of what we were talking about with Ouzo and how to drink that, that's a lot of the Greek tradition for how to drink it. And of course also pastis, which has a little bit of a similar blueprint as well in the south of France, has the same sort of qualities, flavor profile, drank with tall water. So, you know, although that may also, there's an argument that that's technically not an anisette either, but you know, there's
a whole nother show. That's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah. So anyways, well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to talk about today about anisette or cocktails or?
You know, I just want people to just not be afraid, step out there. It's such a category that's not talked about enough. It's really just a trial and error. So I just suggest everyone go out and buy a bottle and figure out how to play with it and enjoy it and celebrate a different spirit and grow into your palate and grow into yourself and your comfortability and sip it nice and neat. Make some ice cubes out of it, make some cocktails out of it, and keep enjoying it.
Yeah, you've inspired me for sure.
Great.
All right, well, I don't have any other questions in the chat box today, so I will let us conclude this wonderful training. Tiffanie, you are always a pleasure. Thank you so much to Portland Cocktail Week for organizing and putting these sessions on for everybody to enjoy and learn and be edutained. And thank you, Tiffanie, for taking the time to create that wonderful cocktail. Again, I'm super jealous, and almost happy birthday.
Thank you. Cheers to everybody. Cheers to you. You're amazing. Thanks for hanging out with me. And I hope you actually have this cocktail today or something similar, nice and cold. Enjoy this actual holiday.
Fresh out of Ouzo at this household, unfortunately. I will have to be very inspired and get one, and maybe I will send you a photo at some point.
All right. I'm looking forward. You have a few days to do it. Monday, I'll check in with you.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks everybody for watching. Really, really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Cheers. Happy Anisette Day.
Awesome. And the live stream is out. Thank you so much.
Yay.
Tiffanie, you are the best.